Peace and greetings, and welcome to the Network of Awareness, where we pursue knowledge to expose toxic conditioning, propaganda, and global lies, inspiring critical thinking for a meaningful reality rooted in universal truths and empowering awareness. And in today's episode, I have a very special guest by the name of Malka, who has a TikTok channel, and we're going to have her come on to discuss this episode on how we're supposed to transition from revolution to evolution. And in this episode of the transition from revolution to evolution, navigating the Age of Enlightenment, we're going to discuss how we need to embark on a journey through the shifting of landscapes of societal change and also the energetic, vibrational, and frequency change and ascension from revolution to evolution in the Age of Aquarius, which is the Age of Enlightenment. So sit down, enjoy, and you will get a lot of meaningful information that can help you be rooted in universal truth so that you can be empowered with awareness. So join me and Malka as we explore the transition from revolution to evolution in the Age of Enlightenment here on the Network of Awareness. Let's go. Peace, love, and light, and supreme grand rising to you, my sister in truth, goddess in the universe, and welcome.
Gratitude. Thank you, ORRA, for having me on today. I truly appreciate this opportunity to be able to discuss this topic with you and everyone who is in the audience as well.
Yeah, and I'm glad to have you on the show to discuss this. And I know it's something that you're very passionate about, something that you brought to my attention that we should discuss when I had invited you to my podcast. Let me start by saying this. Let's get right into it. The story or the history of humanity is marked by moments of upheaval where the status quo is always challenged and the seeds of revolution are sown. And these revolutions have shaped our world from political upheavals to technological advancements. Yet, as we stand on the precipice of this new era or age that we are now in, which we're going from this dark cycle to this light cycle, it's becoming increasingly evident that we're transitioning from the age of revolution to one of evolution. And I wanted to get your thoughts on that and also let the listeners know what inspired you to want to even discuss the concept of from revolution to evolution.
As you stated before, we have been programmed to accept revolution. They tell us like, oh, the revolution is something where you go out and you do your rallies and you do your marches and you're protesting for change. But as you look down the cycle of historical facts, everyone who have been engaged in a revolution hasn't actually found any type of resolution at all. It's just an onward cycle constantly going on over and over again. Even when you look up the definition of revolution, it's a wheel, it's a circle, it's being caught in a constant cycle. It's an illusion that progression is being made when in actuality, there is no progression being made. You're just stuck in a situation that constantly keeps repeating itself with the hope that the outcome is going to change because you have been programmed to believe that changes are being made when in actuality they're not.
I know that when they had the Industrial Revolution, that to me, from my perspective and my opinion, can't say this is a fact, but Industrial Revolution put us in a more sophisticated enslavement because slavery already had existed in the United Shenanigans of America from its inception of when the corporation was started on these lands and treaties were broke and all these other things. But then we transitioned in the early 1900s or even late 1800s into this Industrial Revolution where it really took over people in putting them in this employee mindset and being like the cog on the wheel for just a small group or a small percentage of people or men to benefit from this, while everybody else was the indentured servant making a minimal wage. And they try to mark this as something that was good for the country or for the land, but in actuality, I think it was much more detrimental detrimental. What are your thoughts on that about the Industrial Revolution and the type of impact? Do you think it was a positive impact like some people like to write about? Or do you think it was more of a negative, like from my perspective?
The people who typically refer to the Industrial Revolution as being positive are the ones whose family gained monetarily from it. Any type of group of free-thinking people who have the freedom to be able to sustain their lifestyle for them and their family without reliance on the government is detrimental to everyone that's involved, because who really wants to go and squander all of their time for money and for financial gain and give up the freedom of everything that they have? What they did was they literally took over the natural free resources of the lands and then gave everyone the opportunity to have access to things that was already theirs that they had free access to prior. And then they said, hey, look at this. We can offer you these benefits if you walk away and give us access to these particular lands. They basically took a pile of poop, painted it in gold, and offered it as a gold brick as a distraction. So once people were distracted with the idea of employment and working for someone else because it would be more beneficial, they were more willing to walk away from the free natural resources. In essence, now these companies, these governments, the people who went about finding this method of enslavement for us, now we have to work for them to be able to gain access to the things like food and water that we once had for free. And it's powering them because they get to gain all of the resources for free and then be able to just maximize their income and their wealth off of that. So whenever someone talks about it being a positive, it's only a positive for those who have truly benefited, because now you have a group of people that's reliant on this system structure that has been set up, but they're literally being enslaved because they don't have any other way to provide for themselves without having a reliance on this structure that was set in place.
Yes. You heard it here on the Network of Awareness, and you're absolutely right. Usually the people who wrote about it were the people who benefited from it, and that's how it's been. We're still in it to some degree, and we're slowly but surely transitioning out of it through this digital age as well that we're in. And digital and technology is now becoming this new form of industrial revolution. It's more of a digital revolution, but we still have to focus on this age of enlightenment and really ground ourselves and free ourselves from these tyrannical forces. They want to keep this revolving wheel, this revolution of revolving, just keep doing the same thing over and over. It's the revolving door, the revolving circle, opposed to evolution where it ascends and rises and increases and improves and keeps going upward. So with that being said, what does this transition entail, right? And then to understand this, we must first delve into the concept of revolution. Revolutions are often characterized by sudden and dramatic changes fueled by discontent and a desire for radical transformation at those times. They can be both violent or nonviolent, and ranging from the political revolutions like the American and French revolutions to social movements such as civil rights movement and women's rights and your LGBTQ movements, and all these other movements have been categorized as revolutions. Are revolutions powerful catalysts for change? That's a question we must ask ourselves, because they can also be very chaotic, unpredictable, and they can leave behind a trail of destruction in their wake. And in this age of revolution, it's characterized by the tumultuous cycles of these uprisings that have happened and conflicts, and then also destruction to reconstruction. And yet, as we look around us today, it's clear that now that we're in this age of enlightenment and the age of Aquarius, which is the end of the age, not the end of the times, people. Stop saying we're in the end times, because there's no such thing. But as we look around, we see that it's clear that something is shifting. What would you say to that?
To go based off your statement where you said the revolutionary changes over time, all of those so-called revolutions that we went through were a form of manipulation that was used by government agencies or the powers that were in order to gain favor of the minorities to push an agenda that they made appear that was going to be, made it appear that it was going to be beneficial for us. Even when it comes down to such things as you named, like the civil rights movement, they made it seem as if it has something to do with racial divide and making things equally established within this land. But in actuality, that's not what was happening. They were secretly pushing an agenda to incorporate other laws and rules into society. If you remember anything about the Civil War, it was a big upheaval that took place. I can't think of the guy's name right now, but he was actually a homosexual leader. He worked side by side with Martin Luther King. And when it started making publicity about his sexual preference and lifestyle, that was when they told Martin Luther King that he had to separate himself from that particular individual because it was bringing about the wrong ideas. But then later on down the line, I believe it was in 2020, Barack Obama went back and gave that man his particular flowers. And Barack Obama was actually the one who signed off on a lot of gay rights. So this was an agenda that was already being pushed in order to create these different type of scenarios within our society to make them societary norms and to create a divide as well as things that are being accepted within society. So they get us to agree on particular things and we think that, oh, this is going to benefit us in this day. This is going to benefit us in this way. But in actuality, it's a whole nother hidden agenda, underlining agenda that a lot of people don't know about. And then we have to wait 5, 10, 15 years before the truth really comes out about the agenda altogether.
Yeah, there's actually a documentary about that and a movie too, I think on Netflix. I think his name was Abernathy or something like that. And there's a movie now about it, about the impact that he had. And you're absolutely right, because those of us that have done our research, as much as Martin Luther King was painted and glorified, because as a kid, I aspired to be like him. But what I later down the line, as I got older, I started to realize that I would rather be like Malcolm X because he was actually a lot more realer than Martin Luther King, because Martin Luther King was literally, like he said, leading his people into a burning building. And even when he said that, he knew what he was doing. And he was part of a Masonic order through the black college elites and all of that, and the Greek fraternities. And he was put in these positions. And by the time he woke up to realize that he got tired of bamboozling his own people, it was too late. Because when you lay in bed with these powers, like you call them the powers that were, I like to call them the powers that shouldn't be. But when you lay down with these people and you go against them, once you are benefiting and serving their agenda purposefully, and then you decide to flip the switch like John F. Kennedy and many others, guess what? You're going to get a bullet. This is all well documented, people. There's books on this. There were court hearings on this. So everything that we're talking about here is not some type of made up mumbo jumbo, right? This is like actual facts. Very well said, Malka. That's what it is. And we got to stop subscribing to the legacy of lies here, because the United Shenanigans of America has put the veil over our eyes since its inception, and it is not a country. Now, let's enter the Age of Enlightenment. In contrast to this, right, this abruptness of revolution, Enlightenment embodies a more gradual, sustained progress of growth and transformation. It's about fostering understanding. It's about fostering unconditional love. It's about embracing diversity intelligently. It's about having emotional intelligence. It's about harnessing the power of knowledge to drive progress. And in many ways, the Age of Enlightenment represents a maturation of humanity and a collective awakening and universal unity consciousness to our interconnectedness and shared destiny as a humanitarian race. Your thoughts?
I feel like us obtaining knowledge is what's going to allow us to break the cycle. And that has a lot to do with our awakening. Awakening is understanding the information that's coming forward as the truth instead of constantly staying stuck in the illusions that were fed to us and no longer accepting the things that were told to us and understanding the things that are being presented to us and taking out the time to dive into the knowledge and make a decision that's going to be beneficial for everyone with changing the status quo. Meaning we can no longer rely on the information that's being given to us by people who have shown us over and over again that they have deceived and manipulated us by means of the information that was given to us in order for us to play into their agenda. So by acknowledging that, we can step into a place of accountability. Once we start taking accountability for playing along with their game, then we can make the necessary changes to say, this no longer is the narrative that I choose to subscribe to. So now I'm going to create my own narrative, but also being able to look at the examples that was given to us by those in the past on how we possibly should react and ways in which we should not react because of the possible outcomes and the scenarios that can transpire.
Are some of the signs, if you could give some of the signs of this transition from revolution to evolution? Because in my perspective, one needs to only look at the current global landscape and where we're at and all these things that are happening to see the shift taking place. And in recent years, we've witnessed a surge in movements such as tearing down old paradigms. On the other hand, there's a lot of pressure that's being applied because of that from the powers that shouldn't be to try to continue to keep that power structure in play and very much alive and thriving. So what signs of this transition from revolution to evolution have you seen recently from your perspective?
Some of the signs that I see is a lot of people are going up against the different court systems and judicial systems for some of the laws that have been set in place. They're no longer agreeing with the laws or the authorities or the governments. We also see a change in the way that we are being policed throughout our communities and the way that people are responding to those so-called authoritative figures that have been placed in front of us. There's also a change in the way that people appreciate having their own communities. You hear a lot of people talking about building up communities, coming together to be able to purchase or obtain land. A lot of people talking about farming and gardening so that they no longer have to rely on the government or food and resources to be able to live. You see a lot of people really standing into their place of independence when it's coming down to being more entrepreneur mindset than employee mindset. They're refusing to give so much of their time to something outside of themselves that they don't feel is benefiting them. People are also starting to step away from the healthcare system. They're no longer putting their health in the hands of people who have used so many of us in the past as their own personal guinea pigs for their scientific projects. People are starting to become more self-reliant on themselves and these quote unquote medicine doctors that are turning to the natural herbs within the world. And so I think that these are all of the signs of things that people are doing to show that they're starting to break free from the cycles that we were in with trusting in the world and these so-called powers. And those are the signs of our elevation.
Absolutely. It makes me think about how these social injustices are now being brought to light more than ever. And people are coming together to tackle these challenges of our time through collaboration and through innovation. So take, for example, the growing momentum behind this green energy movement. Instead of waging war against fossil fuels, a lot of activists and entrepreneurs are now investing in renewable energy sources. They're sustaining technologies. There's a shift from confrontation to cooperation. That's the huge one, right? Because competition will never beat out cooperation. And we're tearing down the old buildings and looking to a brighter future. Even though there's still the fear mongering going on, many of us are building our reality through the unconditional love thoughts, from my perspective. And of course, this transition is not without challenges, right? So the forces of resistance are still strong, clinging to those familiar comforts of the past and resisting these so-called winds of change, so to speak. And yet, as history has shown us time and time again, progress is inevitable. We're in the light cycle. We're in the light cycle, baby. I'm loving it. I'm unapologetically being my authentic self, and many others are doing the same. And it's, your shenanigans are over. Not just here in the Americas, but around the world. And it's happening slowly but surely, but it's coming together and it's speeding up as the planet is speeding up.
I feel as if because it's the time of enlightenment, basically they set a trap that they thought was going to ensnare a lot of us, and they ended up getting caught in their own trap because of the technology that they created, because they wanted to advance and do all of the other things. People who have knowledge of a lot of things and people who were actually misinformed are able to use these means of technology to get accurate information and to see the truth on different narratives that were being painted. And now it's causing them to lose control. And I believe that's where all of the fear mongering and things are coming into play, because they understand that they no longer control the narrative. They no longer control the media. They no longer control the storyline. And that's what's frightening them. It's not so much of us needing to be afraid. It's them being afraid and projecting that fear onto us to try to get us to believe what they see is the inevitable outcome for themselves. And a lot of people have to continue to understand that and understand that things are changing because it's time for them to change. And we all know what goes up must come down. It's actually a great time for us us to be able to see all of these things because they literally used and created the technology that's gonna single-handedly be their own downfall.
Absolutely. And I got to give props where props are due, because similarly, the digital revolution has paved the way for unprecedented levels of connectivity and collaboration. Listen, this is how you and I met, right? I met you on TikTok. You followed me. I started following you, and you thought that my information that I was providing was worth listening to and watching. Next thing you know, you and I meet on a live, and here we are. And that's that beautiful connectivity and collaboration that many of us are going through. And through platforms like social media and online communities, individuals from across the globe can come together to share ideas, mobilize resources, and really drive like a substantial amount of change on a scale never before possible. And that's a beautiful thing. And that's happening for a reason, to serve all of us. It's not a coincidence, it's more of a coincidence. And it's really a testament to the power of evolution and harnessing the technology that transcends those boundaries and unite us in humanity and in this really common goal and purpose to live a fulfilling life of peace and harmony as it should be, and just growth where we can all learn from each other and not have these wars and conflicts that are all manipulated and perpetrated by those powers that shouldn't be, by the archons. I said before, this transition is not going to come without challenge, but there's some of the things that you think that we can facilitate or do to make this transition evolve sooner than later.
I definitely feel we have to continue to do the things that we're doing right now, which is sharing the information with each other to be able to come together. Those of us who are in disagreement with the way that things work, definitely starting to empower each other with knowledge. Not only that, being able to come together and share in the different resources as well as the knowledge. We got to be hands-on with the things that we're doing. We can't just speak about it. Action definitely has to be taken, as well as us understanding a healthy balance of the things that were given to us that we can utilize as tools. Even though we were given this technology and AI to be able to utilize, and it is benefiting us in many ways, we still have to be cautious of the ways in which we choose to use this new technology as well, because you have some that are using the technology for bad, and then you have others that are using the technology for good. So we have to come together and truly understand that there's duality in all things, and we have to focus on only utilizing what needs to be utilized in order for us to grow and to be able to build up the society and the world the way that we see fit, without the outside influence of those who do not have the same ideals. We also have to be wise enough to be able to use our discernment to make sure that we are protecting the communities that we are building. Because when you look back in history, there was always several people who were used as informants to come against those who were trying to make a change so that they can be infiltrated, so they can shut them all down. So it's really being able to have that discernment and building a trust factor and motivating in a state of, like you said, unconditional love, but also being wise enough to discern if something is out of place or if someone is moving out of place. So not necessarily moving with haste, because it's going to happen either way, and the universe is definitely working to help us to bring this into fruition, but it's not moving so quickly to where you just welcome any and everyone in and to tell them all of your secrets of things that are going on, but to really just collaborate with people who are making these positive changes within themselves while still having a little bit of a secret, keeping your secrets and protecting yourself and those that are around you.
Absolutely. And I'm a firm knower that this Age of Enlightenment is here to fulfill the promise of making this world a better place through its ascension. And the answer lies in each and every one of us, Malka. It's about embracing our roles as stewards or light warriors of change and committing ourselves to the pursuit of knowledge, empathy, understanding, and ultimately unconditional love for ourselves and the world that we live in. It's all about really listening to these diverse perspectives and really challenging our own biases independently and also collectively, and seeking like a common ground with those who may see the world differently. Because you always hear me say on my shows, especially now on TikTok Live, where I do these podcast lives now, ever since they shut down the live on Spreaker. And for those that used to listen to me live on Spreaker, by the way, I'm doing podcast shows live on TikTok, and they're going very well. If you want to watch my lives, follow me at my profile, ORRA. You always see it in the description box if you haven't followed yet, but it's at ORRA_informationalist on TikTok, people. channel. And I'm also going to put that, I'm going to create a new profile on IG with that as well and start building up that channel on IG. Yes, I'm with the guest, Malka. All right. Check her out at Malka. That's M as in Mary, A, L as in Larry, K, A on TikTok. All right. Show her support, follow her. And she's actually going to start doing live shows on her own as well. And I'm looking forward to being a guest on her lives. And also her and I are going to be doing some work and seeing what we can form together with our gifts and abilities, like I've been doing with several people from TikTok. This is only the beginning in this age of enlightenment. I'm not worried about what's going to happen on the 8th. I'm already looking forward to what's going to happen in May, June, July, and August, and September, November, December too. Now, with that being said, back to the topic of discussion when it comes to revolution to evolution, Malka gave some great points on how we can ensure that the Age of Enlightenment fulfills its promise of a better world for all. The answer, like I said, lies in each of us. It's really about growing and being able to agree to disagree and come to a common ground to elevate each other. It's about recognizing true progress for what it is and celebrating that true progress. And it's not a measure of by the height of these skyscrapers and corporations or the speed of our technological advancements, but by the depth of our compassion and the strength of our connections through that unconditional love. As we stand on this threshold of this new era that we're in, and let us pay heed to the call of the Age of Enlightenment, people, and let us embrace the power of this evolution and really work together to build the world that honors our shared humanity and really preserves the beauty of our planet for all the generations to come. Malka, what are some of the things you're looking forward to in regards to this Age of Enlightenment and how we can increase the level of frequency and vibrations throughout the planet through our energetic auric fields and really have the compassion and strength to have that connectedness for the preservation of the planet and for generations to come?
As we all continue to love, give love, spread love, not just to ourselves, but to others around us, and more importantly, the planet in which we dwell on, then it'll raise the vibrational frequencies. And with those raised vibrational frequencies, we're going to emit that out into the world. And they make the statement that love conquers all. So love is also contagious. It's something that a lot of people are looking for, and they're looking for it in many different ways. And with us focusing on our own particular impact and the things that we are going to be doing is going to become contagious to others who are watching us. So we're going to draw people in just on the sheer fact that we're choosing to make a change in the way that we are handling ourselves as well as handling the world and those who are around us. I was writing down some notes and I was pretty much saying that we have to accept this new wave that's coming, and it comes with forgiving the past so that we can embrace the present and restore the future. And the only way that we can do that is to live right now in this present, to think about all of the things that we can do right now within this moment and actually live within this moment to restore this particular balance to ourselves. And the future is eventually going to unfold the way that it's supposed to based off of our actions of today.
Absolutely. And what are some of the tips and advice? Because this is a question that I'm asked a lot, and it's a question that's been asked to me a lot now on TikTok. So one of the main questions is when we're saying like, you got to have unconditional love for yourself. You got to have unconditional love for yourself. And people's like hearing this and they're like, but how do I have unconditional love? How do I love myself unconditionally? What do I do to make that happen? What advice can you give the listeners on how to go about establishing, and this is from my perspective, it's a frequency, it's a state of being. What are some of the things you can offer as a suggestion or advice to people that they can start doing to really practice this art, this way of life of having unconditional love for oneself?
It starts off with a simple question. And that question is, am I truly fulfilled in all of my desires? Am I at peace with myself? Can I sit in the darkness and hear? Unconditional love starts with asking yourself a simple question, which is, do you feel fulfilled within your life? Are you still having any doubts, fears, or insecurity? Can you sit with yourself in silence and actually be able to acquire peace while you're in that place? That means in that dark darkness, can you just embrace the silence of the darkness alone? And if not, then you need to reflect on the thoughts and emotions that you feel when you're sitting within that darkness. Because to have unconditional love is to be able to set your boundaries on things that you like and things that you don't like, not only with others that are outside of you, but definitely within you. And if you continuously do things that you say that you don't want to do, then you have to ask yourself, why are you doing those things? Because if you're still doing things that you know are not good for you, things that you do not like, things that make you feel uncomfortable, if you have behaviors of laziness, I want a six pack, but I don't want to get up and go work out. You have to then ask yourself, why are you doing these things? As you continue to ask yourself the important question of why, you will start to gain the answers. You will start to have your memories recalled of why particular behaviors came about, why you are living in a spirit of lack, why you are choosing not to love yourself to your full capacity. You will basically start to shed and rid yourself of all of these limiting beliefs of you only being able and capable of doing certain things. And when you're able to tap into that, you will start to take accountability. As you take accountability and you hold yourself accountable for the things that you did, you actually start to respect yourself. When you gain respect for yourself, you start to love yourself. A lot of people don't truly respect themselves. And because they don't respect themselves, they're willing to do a lot of things that's outside of what most people would consider to be morally right. But the morals isn't for people outside of you. It's you going against your own moral compass of your higher self and the things that your higher self are trying to encourage you to do. So once you take accountability for those things and you start to realize that you're literally going against yourself for your own insecurity, your jealousy, your gain, and everything else, then you can start to step into that frequency of taking accountability to gain respect for yourself. And then that will trickle down into unconditional love.
You heard it here on the Network of Awareness. So with that being said, let's wrap this up. And I want to get your final thoughts on what we've covered in this episode, or anything you want to share with the audience, with my fellow Network of Awarians. Any last words for the people? Any words of inspiration, or just anything that's on your mind that you want to close off with?
Yes. This change that's coming for us, it's coming whether we like it or not. Some of us are really going to be pushed to the point to where we will have no choice but to embrace the things that are going to happen. And we can make this a very pleasant journey for ourselves if we're just willing to accept the changes that are coming, or we can make it a painful journey because the world is shifting and times are changing, and a lot of people are uncomfortable with change. But it's time that you start becoming comfortable with things that make you uncomfortable, because the things that are coming for us are so much greater than the things that we have been forced to accept within our lives. And so remember, the only thing that's constant in this world is change, and we cannot stop the inevitable from taking place. We cannot stop these changes from happening. And as we continue to look at ourselves and look at our lives and look at this world, we know that we are truly not happy with the things that are going on in this world, as well as the way that we have been forced to live. So let's look at the memory of the past only as a reminder of not to allow that to become our future. And with that being said, we can do everything that we have to do within our natural power to help make the future that we all are desiring to see a current reality and a for sure possibility.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for the wisdom, the knowledge that you were able to share on this episode of the transition from revolution to evolution, navigating the Age of Enlightenment. Really do appreciate your energy and what you brought to this podcast episode. And looking forward to having you come back and share some more information on the things that you're doing. And like I said, we're going to have her profile link for you to click on and start following her if you're interested in learning more and hearing from Malka. With that being said, people, I want to thank you for taking this journey with me through the transition from revolution to evolution. And of course, as always, we have to stay positive, because peace is that positive energy that always corrects error. And we got to make sure that we maintain that peace in our mind. With that being said, thank you for joining me on the Network of Awareness. And until next time, let's remember to keep an open mind, a compassionate heart, and a steadfast commitment to building a brighter future for all. So don't look for the light at the end of the tunnel, because the light is and always will be within you. So light up that tunnel and find your way through the darkness. And when you live in the present, there's always an opportunity for a new beginning. So be present now and start your new beginning. This is ORRA, the informationalist from the Network of Awareness, saying Supreme Grand Rising and peace, love, and light, people.